I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, and so that means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the interwebs before we go ahead and get started. And we got some Fanny business to attend to on the day, and we can't wait to get into it, but we can't start until the tubes work. Otherwise, it's just like, what's going on here? It looks like they are working. We're on Rumble, we're on Locals, we're on YouTube and Telegram, and so that means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about some Fani-Willis fallout. We had the Terrence Bradley hearing that took place yesterday, and we were here covering it live. And we released a video earlier today as well talking about a lot of the media reaction. But there's a new scoop that has just come out. And in fact, Megyn Kelly has a big dossier. But there are text messages from Terrence Bradley to Ashley Merchant that have now been released. And we're going to go through a couple of them. And we're going to see what else is percolating out there. But of course, they are really what they sounded like when we heard from them in trial, that they confirmed that Terrence Bradley, not that honest of a dude. And so we're going to go through some reaction on that and see what some of those text messages look like. And then we'll go through reaction from local news, because this was a former DeKalb County prosecutor. And he's coming out saying they still haven't proven their case, even though all these people are basically confirmed liars now. We know that stories are changing all over the place. So what is going to happen with the local politics? And, you know, they're all still circling the wagons here to protect big Fani-Willis. We'll see what's going on there. We got reaction from Congress. A Senator, Marsha Blackburn, noted that Terrence Bradley had a little bit of amnesia on the brain. You know, I don't recall. Happened a lot yesterday. And so she had some comments on that. We have Andy Biggs from Arizona shout out. He's explaining this bro versus pro distinction. And this is something that Hunter Biden's doing too with his attorney, Kevin Morris. So we'll see what he says. And Andrew Weissmann, the former Trump prosecutor, he says, you know, it's a hot mess in Georgia, and that is an understatement. So even MSNBC's recognizing this thing is off the rails. We've also got questions about what the Georgia Senate is doing. So remember, there was a Senate resolution that passed, and now Breitbart has some information that they are going to be sending subpoenas very soon to dig into a bunch of other areas, other crevices of the Fani Fulton County office. And so we're going to see what happens there as well. We also have another prosecutor who is going after Trump. You remember her, Letitia James. She's up there in New York, and she apparently has some financial improprieties of her own. She says Trump has them. I disagree. I think he just did business as usual. But she actually has some improprieties with her financial contributions. That's according to this interesting report from Village Crazy Lady. Her name's Mel. She's on X, an independent journalist, and she went through some of this stuff. It's got 1 million views on this one post. So it's like, whoa, everybody's paying attention to it. But she started digging through Tish's financial record, and apparently there's some questions there about what she's spending her money on and how she's classifying some of those expenditures. And people are wondering, did she pay fair market value for that double hamburger, you know, that she got? And we'll see. We're going to go through the records, and it was actually a great thread. So if you're not following Village Crazy Lady, be sure that you're doing that. We also are going to hear from Napolitano and Elise Stefanik, who rips all of this stuff in New York. And today, apparently, James O'Keefe, and this is going to be dropping, I think, any minute now. Apparently, he went and worked out with Judge Areola, Engoron. So that's James O'Keefe walking in there, shaking hands with the Engoron. He's saying, excuse me, I'm a huge fan. So James O'Keefe strikes again. And so keep your eye out on that one, man. It's going to be a lot of good stuff. Megyn Kelly's got a scoop. James O'Keefe is is working out, bench pressing with the Areola nip Engoron. It's just a heck of a day. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And of course, check that out as soon as you're done here on the show. And so we got those two segments to get through. Before we get there, we are going to take a look at what's happening in Florida, because there is another motion to dismiss the charges. And this is a very important concept called void for vagueness. So if there's a statute that exists out there and it's void, in other words, you don't understand what the law says about it, it's unconstitutional because it doesn't articulate what the offense is and make it possible for you to have notice about the penalty. So we'll talk about this. We've got Trump submitted another motion to dismiss in the classified documents case. It's 20 pages. We'll hit the highlights and we'll see what Weissmann said on that one. He loves Jack Smith. Jack Smith's just an amazing dude. So we'll get to all that and more. And then, of course, we'll hear from you and see what you have to say about all of this as the show unfolds. Of course, as soon as we're done here, we are going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where we do our members only after party. We already had a beautiful stream this morning too, and we'd love to have you come and join us in the mornings. We like to say our hellos, our good mornings, get our bearings day straight on the day, figure out what's happening, and then go through the news. And it's a lot of fun. So come and join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We also have robertgovea.com. And these are all linked in the description below. So if you want to access any of the PDFs or sign up for our daily newsletter, that way you don't miss a thing here, robertgovea.com is where you can go and do that. All the PDFs are uploaded there. And tomorrow, we're going to have a great political Zen wellness workshop with our friend Jason Campbell. He is a Zen wellness master. He's a black belt. He's an artist. He's the sheriff of a town here in Arizona called Cleator. He's a musician. Did I already say that? He's amazing. So great. It's going to be a great event. Free at watcherlodge.com. Links are down in the description. And we're not doing it on Zoom. Okay. So if you have a Zoom link, get rid of that. If that's on your calendar, if you already added that to your calendar, we're going to use the native built-in app. So make sure you go to watcherlodge.com to sign up and join us. And that's happening over there. It's our sovereignty and self-development community. It's where we're talking about solutions and improving our lives and building a community with deep roots. Come and join us. We're all talking about sovereignty over there. Watcherlodge.com. All right. Now, without any further ado, let's start in Florida and see what's going on in Judge Cannon's courtroom. Donald Trump and his defense file a motion to dismiss. They say that the charges that Jack Smith is bringing against them are unconstitutional because they are vague. You don't understand what they mean. You don't understand the content that they're trying to regulate. What type of conduct are they prohibiting? What types of penalties are they prescribing? And so on. If you don't know what it is, then any prosecutor can just apply it to anyone for any reason at any time, and anybody can be prosecuted by a deranged thug who's not even a legitimate U.S. attorney, like Jack Smith. And so Trump is filing to dismiss 32 counts, all of the classified documents counts in the Florida classified documents case. And so let's take a look at what this filing says. Filed in Florida, Southern District, the West Palm Beach Division. We've got the cases U.S. versus Trump and the co-defendants. And this here is President Trump's motion to dismiss 32 counts because it's unconstitutionally vague. Let's see what they say. We'll fast forward through the table of contents, and Trump's team tells us. President Trump respectfully submits this motion to dismiss those 32 counts because those 32 counts are void for vagueness. Very common phrase in the law, and we're going to learn all about it. They tell us in a footnote, Trump reserves the right to supplement this. Perfect. They say, first of all, Judge Cannon, here's why. Section 793E is unconstitutionally vague as it's applied to Trump, a former president who's operating within the framework of the Presidential Records Act, who does the following one, who one, acted as the ultimate original classification authority under the Constitution and has recourse to the executive privilege and is entitled to immunity for his official acts. He's operating within all of those things. Okay, he has all of these powers. And since at least 1941, courts in cases with less vexing features than this one, they've acknowledged the grave infirmities of the statute, 793E, under which Trump has been charged. And they've endeavored to save the statute by reinterpreting it to fit the case. Now, that approach is inconsistent. You can't just manipulate the law. Inconsistent with due process principles and separation of power concerns that animate the vagueness doctrine, right? The danger here is if you have a statute that just says, it's illegal to do bad things all the time. That's the law. What? Bad things? What is that? Well, don't do it. If you do it, they're going to be in big trouble. And so that's kind of what these laws are. And honestly, a real world principle of this is the disorderly conduct statute. Look it up in your home state. What does disorderly conduct mean? It's like the most generic term ever. It's like you were acting in a disorderly manner to disturb the peace and well-being of someone else, essentially. It's like that vague. Happens for everything. They just show up, a couple gets in a fight, that disorderly conduct. What? Your neighbors heard something. Okay. So it's just, and they just arrest somebody for it. And it's just, our government acting as totalitarian dictators. They just show up, you're going to jail today because we're the cops. So the point is, right, it's void for vagueness. These are loosey-goosey statutes, and Jack Smith is exploiting them to go after Trump. Now, it is not for Article 3 judges like Cannon or Chutkan to address the deficiencies in language chosen by elected officials. So courts, you don't fix them when Congress screws it up. You just say whether it's valid or not. That's it. Don't fix it. Particularly whereas here, the legislative record strongly suggests that there was no consensus meaning attributed to the problematic language. They say there were various judicial efforts to save the statute by attaching broad interpretations to a criminal statute. We'll just read it openly. In order to reach the conduct of the defendants that were hauled into court by overzealous and politically motivated prosecutors. Sound familiar? Now, the Supreme Court recently applied this logic in three cases, striking the residual clauses, and the court should do that here. And by the way, whatever the term unauthorized means in this section, we're talking about this word, what does that even mean? It does not encompass the document that's charged in count 19. And that's probably the one where Trump actually had the clearance still. For that document, there it is. Trump possessed a valid security clearance, and therefore, following the discovery on this issue, the court should resolve any factual disputes and dismiss the charge. So here's what they say. Some background on this vagueness doctrine. They say, we can't have just generic laws. In our constitutional order, a vague law is no law at all. The vagueness doctrine, it rests on the twin constitutional pillars of due process and the separation of powers. Vague laws contravene the first essential of due process of law. And process means we all kind of go through the same thing. That statutes must give people of common intelligence, that's us, fair notice of what the law demands of them. If you don't know what the law is or what the law prescribes or prohibits or what the penalties are, how can you comply? Second, vague laws also undermine the Constitution's separation of powers. Yeah. And the democratic self-governance that it aims to protect. The vagueness doctrine is a corollary of the separation of powers. It requires that Congress, not the executive branch or the judicial branch, it defines what conduct is sanctionable and what is not. Remember, we got these three branches. And the executive branch does not write the law. That's Congress. The legislature says what the law is. They write the law. The executive enforces the law, and the judicial branch says what the law is. So if the judicial branch is writing the law and saying what the law is, then they have usurped Congress. They now do two things. Same thing with the executive. So they can't duct tape over a bad law. If Congress wrote a bad law, they got to fix it. So to satisfy due process concerns, Congress must ensure that a criminal law not only provides the kind of notice that will enable ordinary people like us, I didn't go to Oxford like Jake Sullivan did, to understand what conduct it prohibits, but also that it does not authorize or even encourage arbitrary or discriminatory enforcement. If you can just pop into anybody and just, that's disorderly conduct, you're going to jail. It happens all day in this country, all the time. Then that is subject and ripe for abuse, as it is there. And here, right, it's even more, I would say, evident on its face because Jack Smith he's criminalized unauthorized possession. Well, what does that mean? Because we thought that Joe Biden was in unauthorized possession. We thought Hillary Clinton was in unauthorized possession, and she deleted stuff. So it feels like we don't really understand what that word means because it's misapplied. So it's obviously vague. Even the DOJ can't figure it out. This guy gets charged, this guy doesn't. So preventing discriminatory law enforcement is the more important aspect of the vagueness doctrine. So here's the statute. They say Trump was charged with this, 793E. They say as relevant to counts 1 through 32, here's what they say. They say whoever having unauthorized possession, we're asking ourselves, there's many justifications, that have any document that relates to the national defense or willfully retains it to somebody who is not entitled to receive it shall be guilty of a crime. And they say, okay, we're going to focus on these three statutes, these three portions of the law, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And they say section 93 and its neighbor E and D, the subsection, they say this is a case from a law review article from Columbia in 1973. So these, probably very smart people, Harold Edgar and Benno Schmidt, they wrote this back in 1973. They said these sections of the espionage acts are undoubtedly the most confusing and the complex of all federal espionage statutes. They say it's 793E is a singularly opaque statute. And someone else said the legislative drafting is at its scattergun worst precisely where greatest caution should have been exercised. So in other words, when a statute is poorly written, you don't write a bunch into it. You don't give it a bunch of other meanings because now you're Congress writing the statute. So they say, well, here's the background of 793E. It was the progenitor of the progenitor was the Defense Secrets Act of 1911. So we go back in history. In 1911, there was an act, and the act prohibited the willful communication of knowledge concerning anything connected with the national defense to one that is not entitled to receive it. Now, the statute did not make mere retention criminal. Okay, so just having documents. So that's where it started. Then there was an Espionage Act of 1917. Congress passed some other things. In the Espionage Act then of 1950, Congress then split it into a couple sections, and now we have the statutes that we have here today. And so it's gone through a bunch of different permutations until it gets here. And this is what's so beautiful about the law. It's like there's refinements, let's try it this way. Do these words govern this? That was a pretty bad idea. Okay, let's try this again. How does this work? And then it's this constant, beautiful kind of symphony that happens between all of these different levels of our government. When it works well, it works well. And it's not working now because everybody's perverting their roles. Everybody just says, well, Trump. So we don't really need a separation of powers. We can just have whatever, everybody can do whatever the heck they want all the time and no judgment at all. But I digress. Here's the discussion section. They say, all right, with all that background, they say, Your Honor, Judge Cannon, Section 793E, which is what Trump has been charged with 32 times here, is unconstitutionally vague as it's applied to President Trump. Now, vagueness challenges matter. In this case, the statute's vagueness is subject to exacting scrutiny, meaning we got to be very, very specific on this. Get out your magnifying glass. We're zooming in. Because the special counsel's office is seeking to prosecute Trump based in part on his protected speech relating to the documents at issue. Now, Section 793E is one of the vague statutes that threatens to hand the responsibility of defining crimes to relatively unaccountable police like Jack, to prosecutors and to judges, and the Supreme Court warned about that. As discussed in more detail, they say some courts have tried to save this broken statute and its predecessors, and they tried to make it not unconstitutionally vague. Right? This is the courts like, what can we do to not dismiss this case against this defendant? Right? All the institutions will circle the wagons. They'll bring out their duct tape and they'll fix what Congress did because they're like, well, Edward Snowden's a bad person or something, whoever that person happens to be. And so they just recreate it, totally unconstitutional. And they make judge-made rules and judicial glosses, right, to plug the holes. However, the role of our courts under the Constitution is not to do that, not to fashion a new, clearer law to take its place. That's for Congress. All they should do is treat the law as a nullity, say, hey, morons in Congress, you guys are dumb. Rewrite it again. And that would actually be a good way to get Congress to work again. Instead, the courts just fix everything for them. Just send it back and say, you guys don't know how to write. This obviously doesn't make any sense. Try again. And if you want this power, justify it and invite them to try again. Now, it would certainly be dangerous if the legislature could set a net large enough to catch all possible offenders and leave it to the courts to step inside and say who could be rightfully detained and who should be set at large. Back to my original example. They write a law, don't do bad things or else you go to jail. And then they just let the courts sort it out. So then the courts are kind of writing the rules for what the bad things are. That's obviously insane. Now, because that is what Congress has done with Section 793E 3 times, they keep trying to modify it. And because the judicial efforts to keep the statute on the books are inconsistent with the court's reasoning on vagueness in these 3 other cases, the court should then reject these authorities and find that this statute is void for vagueness under the circumstances of this case. And this case does bring in some additional variables. Trump was the former president, obviously, and there is, as applied, right, like it might not be vague if I've got classified materials. Like, Rob, you shouldn't have those. Like, for example, if I was a senator and I had classified documents in my possession, there's really not a good justification for that, unless you're an elderly old man who can't remember things or whatever, Robert Herr said. It's not that vague. But when you're the president and you've got declassification power, you've got the ability to classify your documents as personal records rather than presidential records, when you've got all sorts of other powers, it makes it more vague. Because how the heck can that apply to you when it's legal for you to do this stuff? So they say the authorization clause, right? What is this unauthorized possession? They say, first of all, that specific phrase is unconstitutionally vague as applied to Trump, because the pertinent language fails to provide any guidance about its scope, how big is the hula hoop, and it permits arbitrary enforcement, as we're seeing here today. They say there's far too much indeterminacy around the meaning of what is unauthorized possession, especially with respect to Trump. What the heck does that mean? It's like, what does disorderly conduct mean? Like you get into an argument, that's it? The documents that are the focus of counts 1 and 32 are only allegedly classified because of Trump's original classification authority, which is derived from Article 2 of the Constitution. And he wielded that pursuant to his power from the people's mandate in 2016. And he delegated it as Trump saw fit for Executive Order 13526. He had the power to do all this stuff because he was the president. He wasn't like, kind of like 98% president. And they say, well, he couldn't do all those other things that the other presidents could do because of Trump. Nope. 100%. They say past presidents routinely took national security files here. Robert Herr even mentioned that in his report. That's weird. And no one suggested that their possession and their retention was unauthorized, as we've talked about in our vindictive and selective prosecution motion, which we're still waiting to get our hands on because that was filed under seal. Now, the Constitution gives the executive a large degree of power, and they give that executive the power to preserve their own internal security. Continuing, Trump's defense says, in addition to Trump's constitutional authority and the DOJ's established practices that came before this case that suddenly all changed, presidential discretion to designate records as personal under the PRA adds additional ambiguity to this, as we talked about in a prior segment here when we read through the Presidential Records Act motion to dismiss, another good filing. Now, the non-criminal nature of the PRA, the Presidential Records Act, Trump said, right, under the act, I have sole exclusive authority to declare this is a personal record. What's the precedent for that? Bill Clinton. He did the same thing when Judicial Watch tried to sue him. So if Trump has the sole authority to say it's personal, it's outside the purview of the National Archives, it's not a presidential record, that automatically makes it not criminal. And that adds some questions about whether or not it really is unauthorized, right? So it's another layer. So even if the authorization clause, even if that little phrase there gave adequate guidance to President Trump, and it did not, obviously, the vagueness of the phrase unauthorized possession as applied to the president, it also gives and lends to an impermissible risk of arbitrary enforcement. We see here, there are numerous examples of other cases in similar situations where the government brought no charges as discussed in our other motion, which we really want to read that one. And they say, by the way, also, what does this mean? Relating to national defense. This is also vague in the statute. The NDI clause unfortunately provides no guidance on the question of what kind of information may be considered to be related or connected to national defense. Pretty big phrase there. The NDI clause is the National Defense Information Clause. What is that? Quite broad, potentially too broad, especially in the time of war, because any information could conceivably relate to national defense. Wow. And that is a foreboding phrase there. That comes from the Fourth Circuit. Yeah, this Rosen case is where it comes from. Now, get ready for that, my friends, right? This is what we're going to be living through in 2024. You can already see the pillars being erected all over the place by the state and the state media, that we're going to be in a time of war. It's all Western democracy versus Putin. And any information that could contribute to Putin and his success is now going to be a threat to the national defense. So we're quite frankly going to be living this, I think, in real time right now. And they're doing it, right? They're applying it to Trump. He had the same documents, probably less serious documents than Hillary, than Joe, than Pence, than all the others, but they're prosecuting him because it's so broad that Trump is now this arm of Putin. And it's not going to stop there. Wait until they start censoring the rest of us. So provide such guidance in connection to the amendments. They say elected officials have failed to agree on the language that provides the adequate notice of what is defense information. And the court should not save this prosecution because the statute is problematic. Saying, Canon, there is no binding authority to address the defective clause that Congress wrote in there. They say here, this section comes from this provision, and the Supreme Court interpreted this. When they were talking about vagueness in constitutional concepts, they said, we find no certainty in this statute, which deprives a person of the ability to predetermine whether a contemplated action is criminal. The obvious delimiting words in the statute are those requiring intent or reason to believe that the information to be obtained, here you go, is to be used to the injury of the United States or to the advantage of any foreign language. So in other words, it's not just mere possession. It's used to injure or to advance a foreign nation. Section 793E contains similar language, but however, prosecutors typically argue that this injury language doesn't apply to the charges that are based on documents. They just say, no, possession of the documents is just enough. Now, assuming the special counsel's office adheres to that position, that case still does not address the vagueness defect in the clause. Now, 4 years after the Supreme Court made a decision in that prior case, the Second Circuit explained that the NDI clause, well, it can't be taken literally, is what they said, right? This is the court, again, bending everything. Why? It's written down. They say it seems plain that the section cannot cover information about all those activities which became tributary to the national defense in time of war. For in modern war, there are none which do not. Right? You have like a mainstream of the national defense information. They're using river analogies. And you've got a tributary that is sort of branched off there, right? And what decides? I mean, we got censored here after January 6th for harmful and dangerous misinformation. Were we attacking the national defense? Right? It's just a stone's throw away. These people are nuts. So they want to do it here. Now, Congress failed to address these vagueness concerns in connection. Congress didn't make any modifications. They had every right. Congress knows that, there were prior problems with this bill and with this concept, and they rewrote it several times and they didn't figure it out. So based on this reasoning regarding different statutes and reported decisions, they've applied a judge-made requirement. They try to save this statute from the fatal vagueness problems that it presents. Now, these rulings are in significant tension with other Supreme Court guidance, right? This is how these things pop up. The Supreme Court talks about vague laws in a million other cases, and they have guidelines for that. This is vague, this is not vague. So then this one pops up, and they have to reconcile the two, and they haven't done that. So how come the courts are duct taping this statute to make it valid when the vagueness rules say it should go? Well, it's because they don't want, they're trying to cover for Congress. They don't want to dismiss charges against people that have Espionage Act violations. And you might agree with that, but they can, in my opinion, they should be holding them under valid laws, not judge-made Band-Aid laws. So they continue. They say, thus, it might have been a good idea for Congress to fix this stuff, but that doesn't tell us whether Congress actually did. The NDI clause that Congress wrote is unconstitutionally vague because we live in an era where every facet of civilian life may have an important bearing on the nation's military capabilities, obviously, right? I mean, they put a memer in jail for election interference. What are they going to do if things really get hot in this world? And they say, oh, your tweets are now Putin, extensions of Russia or whatever. And they just get to apply the law to anything, to everybody. That's dangerous. That's harmful misinformation. You're a Russian propagandist. And we saw that, right, some time ago. Now, accordingly, the NDI clause is fatally vague in its own right, cannot be saved through judicial gloss, and it contributes to the overall impermissible vagueness of 793E. They continue saying the entitlement clause is also unconstitutionally vague as it applies to Trump. The phrase offers inadequate guidance. There are no enforcement standards, and we don't know who would be entitled to receive those records that a former president has already designated to be personal. And the PRA, the Presidential Records Act, grants him virtually unreviewable decisions backed by Article 2 authority. And we've read that filing previously. Now, in another case, the Fourth Circuit rejected an argument that Trump did not make. And the court here should reject reasoning in other cases because those cases involve much more than a gloss, right, to just fix this stuff. They say a type of interpretive gloss is, you can do that, sure, I guess, but Morrison exceeded those bounds. They violated the separation of powers and they read into the statute an implied rulemaking delegation by the executive branch. So in other words, they said, well, I guess we'll just, what is unauthorized, we'll just let the executive decide. Wrong. The executive branch, which enforces the law, right? Their court is basically saying, well, we'll give the prosecutors some discretion and they can make rules, and the rules will provide notice, and then the whole thing is fixed. Wrong. Unconstitutional. Congress needs to do that. Such a delegation is only valid where Congress lays down a legislative act that decides. And Congress knows how to do this. It's their whole reason for existing. The 11th Circuit rejected a vagueness challenge to another statute, and the Attorney General promulgated some other thing. But that was a different situation here. And so even if the court wished to do what Congress has not done by looking to the executive branch for guidance from them, Executive Order 13526 is insufficient. For individuals seeking to comply with that executive order, it provides no relevant guidance on who is entitled to receive the documents, whether anything is excluded under the Presidential Records Act. And so therefore, it raises the same unreviewable questions as in prior arguments where the records were personal, not presidential. Now, if you define the entitlement clause and reference, in other words, you take the statute and connect it to an executive order, then you have these need-to-know bases, and this phrase is just as vague. And so it's still, the executive then still provides for a harsh and discriminatory enforcement capability by local prosecutors, and that's unconstitutional. And so therefore, this law is unconstitutional because it confers unfettered and wholly subjective enforcement discretion to the executive branch. They don't get to write the laws and then enforce the laws. That's Congress. And also they talk about willfully. We talk about this a lot, mens rea. So in criminal statutes, you have two components, mens rea and actus reus. Mens rea is the guilty mind, what's happening in the brain, what's happening in your mind. It's your intention, it's your recklessness, were you acting negligently, what's in your brain. Then you have the actual act. What was the thing that was done, right? The physical movement of an object or the attack or whatever. So you have the two, you got to define both of them. That's how you get criminal convictions, by proving the both of them. Now, willfully is a word of many meanings, right? What does that mean? What does reckless mean? What does negligent mean? What does knowingly mean? What does willfully mean? Thus, the presence of a bad purpose or evil intent alone may not be sufficient. So here in this statute, even if the term willfully could be said to address the vagueness doctrine's fair pillar, and it cannot, the intent requirement does not mitigate the arbitrary enforcement problem. And so it's not enough to argue, as prosecutors have, that Trump will only be convicted if criminal intent established at the trial. No. They say jurors the jurors are then relying on the vagueness doctrine, right? The jurors then look at the rules and they say, I don't know what that means. And so the jurors just apply a vague law and they charge and convict the client. So accordingly, counts 1 through 32 must be dismissed. And of course, count 19 must also be dismissed because Trump had security clearance at that time. And so, in conclusion, Trump's defense says, for the foregoing reasons, President Trump respectfully submits that these espionage statutes are garbage, okay? They are unconstitutionally vague. No one knows what the heck they mean. The executive branch is trying to bubble wrap them, duct tape them up, plug all the holes in them. Courts have been deferring to them with discretion for some period of time, but that is unconstitutional. Congress writes the rules. You don't want a country where the executive writes the rules and then enforces the rules and then judges the rules too, which is what they're trying to do here. That's called a dictatorship. So they say, President Trump, counts 1 through 32 and count 19 all must be dismissed, count 19 in particular, because Trump did have a security clearance. And so the court should resolve these disputed issues of fact for counts 19, but dismiss counts 1 through 32, void for vagueness and unconstitutional. Signed by Trump attorneys Todd Blanche and Christopher Keese in the House, sent in on the Florida classified documents case. And obviously, I think it's a good argument. I don't know that the judge is going to bite on this one, but I do think it's a good argument. You know, courts are very deferential to Congress and to other precedent and to other courts. It would be good if Cannon did that, but this might be something for a higher level court to deal with, right? In other words, Cannon would say, well, I'm not going to overturn all these different circuit precedents. And she is not going to want to be the one responsible for opening the floodgates of espionage prosecutions being dismissed, right? If she comes out and says, well, you're right, unconstitutional, 793E is a problem, there's going to be consequences for that, which is why no one wants to do it. All the courts have been protecting this statute for years, decades, coming up on a century maybe, because they don't know how to handle it, and they're just trying to stop the ship from sinking. So if Cannon comes out and says, sorry, unconstitutional, there'll be some consequences for that. So what she may do, what I think is more likely, deny this motion. Trump will probably appeal this. We'll see what the 11th Circuit does, and then maybe what the Supreme Court does. And this is something much more likely that the Supreme Court fixes and deals with when it gets there. So it's a great motion. I think that we have seen a lot of this duct tape type of governance that has evaporated the proper balance of power that exists, and it's allowed these prosecutions to become unbounded, essentially, because they're just prosecuting whoever they want, which is what they're doing against Trump. So very great motion. We're excited that that one is working its way through the system in Florida. And of course, we'll be continuing to cover it. Now, we're bringing on Andrew Weissmann, a former Trump prosecutor. He, of course, is on the blue team on the other side, and he is responding to a new motion that Jack Smith filed, and Jack Smith was responding to Trump's motions. And so let's see what they're saying over there on MSNBC and what they're talking about Trump.
I'm so glad that Carol brought it back to the national security implications of this, because I think we get lost in, Eileen Cannon as, Carrie Lake-ish, or Eileen Cannon as a real, we get lost in what's happening in front of us. And one of the advantages of stepping away for a minute is, someone says Mar-a-Lago and you think, oh my God, stars on the wall. You think Sue Gordon. You think people died to get a scrap of evidence, or a scrap of evidence from another country's intelligence professional to share with our government, with the trust that it won't be tossed in a box. And it wasn't just with other documents, it was with his underwear, so said Trump. Mm-hmm. The disdain for the documents and everyone.
The FBI went through Melania's underwear drawer too there, woman.
And everything and every life risk to gather them is always stunning to me when we come back to this one.
When you think about what the election was about in terms of empathy being displayed by then, candidate Biden, and the lack of empathy with respect to Trump, it wasn't just sort of abstract principles that were being talked about, or even with respect to just how they deal with people. that lack of understanding what your obligation is, aside from yourself, is what leads somebody to not take classified information seriously. I'm not talking about making a mistake. That could be said about Mike Pence, Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what Jack Smith talks about. This is not inadvertent. This is not willful, but not malicious. This is something at a next level.
Exactly, because it was over and over and over again. There was no question that it was intentional for months and months, and then on top of that, obstruction.
Oh my gosh, he invited the FBI over, okay? The FBI, he waved to them. He walked into the same conference room. They were there investigating him. They were there scoping out all the security cameras. And he's like, hello, FBI, how can I help you? Would you guys like some lemonade, right? This was the part of the unwinding of his he was negotiating with them. There was a back and forth. He was processing the documents. He didn't realize that the FBI was going to be surveilling him and building a case against him on illegitimate charges. Again, totally vague. He didn't know what the conduct, as far as he knows, the precedent was Hillary Clinton can smash cell phones and destroy evidence with BleachBit software, and the FBI doesn't care at all. So we're going to, of course, continue to cover this classified documents case and continue to reveal more about this disgusting prosecution, and we hope that you join us as we do. So my friends, thanks for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. Thanks for checking out some of the links down in the description below. We have watcherlodge.com, where we have amazing events happening. We also have all the PDFs are online at robertgovea.com. And of course, watchingthewatchers.locals.com is where we have our members only community, where we do streams in the morning and on Saturday, and we'd love to see you there. All right, my friends, now let's turn our attention to big Fani-Willis, because we got a couple text messages to look for, and we're excited to see what's inside. So let's just get right to it. Terrence Bradley text messages are now online, and we're going to go through a couple of them to see what's inside, because they confirm what we already knew. Terrence Bradley was on the stand, and he was either lying then or he's lying now. He was either lying to Ashley Merchant or he's lying to the court to cover for Fani and Nathan Wade's relationship. And so we got a couple text messages that came out from Phil Holloway, and he is an attorney, and I don't know how he got these records so quickly, but he's got them, and we're going to see what's inside. Now, he also appeared on with Megyn Kelly and talked about even more text messages, and so we're hopeful that we finally get the full dossier of all these things, but it may be some time until they hit the interwebs. And so we'll take a look at a couple of them in the meantime. But before we look at them, let's refresh our recollection. What did Terrence Bradley say when he was on the stand again for the second evidentiary hearing? Just as a refresher, he gave us some details, and Charlie Kirk clipped this one for us and said that there were strange things afoot there. And remember, Bradley was Nathan Wade's ex-attorney and friend, and he told us in text messages something very differently than what he told the court during the evidentiary hearing.
Wade were in a romantic relationship, correct?
Correct.
And it began at the time that they were both municipal court judges, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, based on privilege. That would be covered in the attorney-client privilege.
Okay, overruled. I do not have knowledge of it starting or when it started.
Terrence, you told me that it started when they were both municipal court judges, though, correct?
That is incorrect.
Let's boost some of this volume up here just a smidge so we can hear this.
When you told me that it started when she left the DA's office and was a judge in South Fulton, where did you gain that knowledge from?
Well, I'm going to object because his testimony a few minutes ago is that he did not recall making that statement.
All right, I'll overrule that. Mr. Bradley, answer the question if you can. Repeat the question.
When you told me that their relationship started when she left the DA's office and was a judge in South Fulton, where did you obtain that knowledge from?
I was speculating. I didn't have a No one told me I was speculating.
No one told you that?
No one told me that.
Out of thin
You were
air.
speculating based on things that had been told to you or things you had observed?
So I'm going to object as to the nature of this line of questioning because the witness has made it clear he was speculating as to how or what he knew. And if it's speculation, it's inadmissible before this court.
All right, but the motivations for his reason for speculating would be admissible, so I'll overrule that.
Thank you, Judge. Was this speculation, when you told me that, was that based on things that had been told to you and things that you had witnessed?
I never witnessed anything. So, it was speculation. I can't tell you anything specific, if that's what you're asking.
You can't tell me anything specific as to why you speculated about that?
No, this was however many years ago. I mean, I don't recall, but no, I don't.
Did you have any reason to lie?
Waiting for the objection. Did you?
I don't know if speculation is lying, but
And Judge, I just want for the record, because sometimes the record doesn't reflect where people are looking, and that when I ask a question, Mr. Bradley is looking at Mr. Wade and his lawyer to wait for them to object, and they're clearly interacting somehow in the court. So I just want the record to reflect that because it wouldn't otherwise.
All right. So, yeah, that dude was lying through his teeth, right? You could feel it in your bones. And these are the text messages that came from Phil Holloway. And he broke a great story with Megyn Kelly. And so shout out to those guys. They got their hands apparently on the full text messages. And so we're hopeful that they'll drop those for all of us to go through every single stinking one of them. And that's going to be a lot of fun. But he did drop a couple of these. So make sure you're following Phil Holloway ESQ because he's got the goods, baby. And he shared this one. He says, breaking. Text used in court between Ashley Merchant and Terrence Bradley says they began their affair before she took office, right? Now, this is what Ashley Merchant was showing us, and we're likely going to see all these as various exhibits and stuff submitted. So this is like a screenshot, right? So this got shared over to Phil Holloway, and I love it. He says, hey, this is a message to Terrence, and on the green, that is going to be Ashley Merchant. She says, like, just date him, talking about Big Fanny. Like, just date him, okay? Don't hire him. Do you think it started before she hired him? Talking about Nathan Wade. And here's Terrence, okay, who's speculating, right? Here's what speculation sounds like. I don't recall. I'm just speculating. Here's what he said. Absolutely. It started when she left the DA's office and was judge in South Fulton. Oh, that's a pretty good speculation there. That's like a nice story. He should be like a novelist or something and write a fantasy novel because it's pretty good. It's pretty specific. She left the DA's office. She was a judge in South Fulton. They met at the municipal court CLE conference, and a CLE is continuing legal education. Happens all the time. Attorneys go to these CLEs. They're like, we're going to learn some law. Yeah, right. They go to the bar, go out to dinner. And apparently, if you're Nathan and Fanny, you do the hibbity-dibbity afterwards. So they met at the municipal court CLE conference. And Ashley says, that's what I figured when he was married. Okay, no response on that one. And this is Friday, January 5th. She sends another one to him. She says, is this accurate, right? So is this accurate on January 5th? And let me share this one. Says, okay, of course, is this accurate, right? Here's another screenshot. Upon information and belief, and that's something you put in a motion. So he knows that, Terrence knows that that is a motion. Says, upon information and belief, Willis and Wade, they met while both were serving as magistrate judges and began a romantic relationship at that time. Text message screenshot to Terrence from Ashley. Terrence responds, no, municipal court. Okay, it's a different court. Magistrate court, municipal court, city court, magistrate court. Maybe in Georgia, it's a county court, but different courts. So municipal court, thank you. Again, total speculation. This dude's just making it up out of his booty. I don't know. No, municipal court. I don't know. A CLE conference for judges when they both happen to be judges. And so this is just the beginning, my friends. Let's see if Phil Holloway dropped anything else while we have been here. He has. Phil Holloway's dropping some more goods. And so perfect. It worked out perfectly. Thanks, Phil. Phil dropped some more right on time. Thank you, Phil. Says, here are the key texts between Ashley Merchant and Terrence Bradley that are at issue in the Fani-Willis disqualification battle. And apparently Megyn Kelly has 31 pages of these things. All right, so go check out her channel because she covered a lot of this as well. But they're dropping them now, right? We're waiting for this fresh out of the oven, my friends. So they show a congenial collaborative effort between the two as Merchant attempted to investigate facts about the affair. So let's dig in. Ashley Merchant's iPhone, she says over to Terrence, says, okay, so the Fulton County District Attorney Open Records is saying they don't have an original contract for when Nathan began work. And this is in 2023. Didn't Terrence just say like that was years ago? Like, dude, that was 6 months ago you were having these texts. 9/14/2023. It's about to be March. So what are we talking? This guy's like, oh, that was like a decade ago. This was many years ago. It was 6 months ago. Okay, so Fulton County Open Records is saying that they don't have an original contract for when Nathan began the work. They only had his renewal contract. Is that possible? File attaches, looks like maybe it's a records request. He says, wow, they don't have it? Wow. Ashley says they're stalling big time. Terrence says, yes, they are. Oh, that must be more speculation there. Doesn't sound very speculative. Sounds like he knows what's up. Here's another one. Ashley Merchant says to Terrence Bradley, says, do you think she is going to deny? Wow. Do you think she is going to deny? Talking about Fani from Ashley Merchant. Terrence Bradley says, no, I don't. Too many people saw their interactions. Wow. Ashley says, me too. I think they admit it. Oh, they didn't. And they should have, right? This is a point we made from the very beginning. If Fani had any honor and integrity, she would have just admitted it. Like, you got to come clean. We know this from when you're in, a young boy, mom comes out and scolds you. Like, all right, just come clean. Because if you don't, you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn your lesson. They're gonna hit you with the evidence one after another, right? Mom always knows. So they didn't, right? Fani's like, we're under attack, racial and gender bias and racism. So Terrence, now he wants to know. He goes, wow, you're digging into this. So tell me, because I got screwed out of my law firm or whatever he's thinking. He says, how much was Anna Cross paid? Anna Cross was the woman who destroyed him on the stand and called him out for his assault. And the other special prosecutor, how much were they paid? Okay, he wants to know about the money now because he, lost like 20 grand in that escrow account to pay off that person. So Ashley Merchant says Cross got 250 grand. Floyd got 150 grand, right? And that's on the 16th at 12:44. And so we're also trying to keep an eye on the timeline. So he's responding pretty quickly. Okay, so she sends a response. Like sometimes, I can be pretty bad about my text messages. Like, I'll respond. But it's fast, right? So she sends this one, 11:57. Looks like that one was sent. 12:06, she sends another one. 12:41, he responds. She responds right back, 12:44. And so she says, okay, that's what they were getting paid. Now, Wade was getting paid like $1 million, 700 grand. So dramatically out of proportion to those other numbers. Ashley also says, and they went to Australia in December. She says, OMG, they went to Belize, they went to Australia, they went to the Bahamas, they went to Napa, they went to Panama City Beach, Royal Caribbean and Norwegian cruise. And when I hear Norwegian cruise, I'm pretty sure they went to Norway. And if they didn't want to go to Norway, they wanted to go. All right. Because that's just what I think of when I think of Norwegian cruises, because it's Norwegian, But anyways, wow. Okay. So they went to Australia too. The land down under. The Bahamas, Napa, Panama City Beach. They were all over the place, okay? And she sent that this year. So this is like 2 months ago. So she sent this one on 1/16. And Terrence is like, I don't remember any of this. Weird. He's like, that was a couple years ago. We just heard him say that. Give me a break. So what caused him to flip? Okay. He is perfectly communicating with Ashley, and he's assisting her. And they are gossiping, right? This is a little bit of gossip, but it's totally relevant. She's like, OMG, they went to Belize, Australia, Bahamas, Napa. Ashley's like, I haven't been on a vacation in 7 years. I got law practice to run, man. So now Ashley, like, they must follow each other on Facebook and stuff. Okay, so happy birthday. Love the pics. Terrence Bradley's having a lot of fun out with the fam, doing whatever. He says, thank you. And so this is on 120. Oh my gosh. So this is on 1/16. He's saying thank you. He's still texting her. He texted her that they are not going to deny this on 1/16. Okay. And when was the motion filed? Crazy. The motion was filed in February, like a month later. So Ashley sends him a message. Hey, just checking in on you. I'm going to be sending a subpoena for the 2/15 hearing, and I hope it doesn't go that far, but I need to be prepared. Right? Like it's filed. I mean, the Roman motion, when was that filed? And let me just take a look. Because we have the motion to dismiss. Yeah, it's already been filed, I believe. This was filed. This was the Mike Roman motion to dismiss. And we went through this in detail. Yeah, look, she submitted this on January 8th. Right, this is the whole motion. So on January 8th, 2024, Ashley Merchant submitted the Mike Roman motion to dismiss. And boy, it was a beautiful thing. We covered it here. There it is. The motion to dismiss. So she sends it. It's filed with the clerk of the court right there. 1/8/2024. It's crazy. This dude is out of his mind. So, all right. We go back to this. The motion to dismiss has already been filed after all this conversation is happening. Okay, it's filed on the 8th. Do you think she's still going to deny? No. He says she's going to come clean. Too many people saw this. Me too. I think they'll admit it. It would have been the smart thing to do. They should have just admitted it, right? They would have saved themselves perjury charges, but they didn't. So then she texts him another message on 1/24, and I'm going to need you to be here. Let's see what happens next. This is from Phil Holloway on X. He says, wow. Okay, so Bradley says, okay, cool. I'll be subpoenaed. I'll show up there. No problem. Says, hey, Terrence. Ashley responds, says, hey, Terrence, I'm subpoenaing Chris Campbell and Nathan's office stuff. I fear it would look suspicious. It would like suspicious if I did not also subpoena you, but I plan on putting Nathan and Fani on the stand and only have others under subpoena for backup. I will leave you out, but I think if I don't subpoena you, it would look fishy. What do you want me to do? Okay, she's being a very good defense attorney and being cooperative with her witness, trying to get this dude. So she says, do you want me to subpoena you? What do you want me to do? Terrence Bradley says, I'm okay with it. Subpoena me. Subpoena me, no problem. Ashley Merchant liked it, says, I'm okay with it. Perfect. Ashley says, it's my hope they do the right thing before then. Save us all this trouble. It's my hope that they do the right thing before then. Now, Terrence responds, this is crazy. He says, you are my friend, Ashley, and I trust you. They will not do the right thing. So his tune has changed a little bit, right? He says that, they will not. They're arrogant as F. She thinks she won the other day when she didn't have to be deposed. So she's, walking around, big fannies, I'm the biggest fanny in Georgia. Don't you know who I am? Ashley says, that wasn't a win. Thompson set them up. Nathan can admit it all in the 31st. And if he doesn't, then Thompson is going to make Fani sit. Thompson will make Fani sit. And they might be talking about the deposition. I think they're talking about the divorce deposition. Thompson set them up. Nathan can admit it all in the 31st. And if he doesn't, then Thompson will make Fani sit. So he basically gave Nathan a chance to protect her, and Nathan did. But if he doesn't tell all, then Fani is going to have to sit. And I think that's the divorce talk. But then Ashley, again, this is 124. This is not like 2 years ago, as he was saying. This is all recent. Nathan's finances make it look like he owed a lot of money when he began this. Oh. Terrence says, owed to who? Owed money to who? Terrence says, no, that's not true. Weird. Okay. So like Terrence is giving us some accuracy, right? Merchant is like, I think I have more dirt on this guy. He's like, well, I wouldn't go that far, right? That makes this even seem more credible. If he's willing to say some of that's not true, he's not just like this guy, like, yeah, go get him for everything, right? Just go get him. He's like, no, that's not true. He says, owed to who? What, loans? Loans? She put a question mark, right, on iMessage. Not true. She says, you know, it may just be a coincidence, but he was highly leveraged. He was highly leveraged. Terrence Bradley says, you know, that's on paper. And Ashley says, what do you mean by that? That's on paper. What do you mean by that? Right? So in other words, maybe Wade has like this bill of, you know, this series of loans that he's got, and he's using it to avoid paying income taxes or something, right? I'm totally over, I'm in the hole, government. I got loans out here for this and this and this, and it's all just, you know, fictional. He's just moving money around and he's doing it to avoid income. Got to repay this back, got to repay that, right? Who knows what he's doing? But these guys' books were not above board either. So Ashley says, well, what do you mean? What do you mean about that? And of course, we'll see if that goes on. But some great drops from Phil Holloway. 3 additional drops from Phil and some good stuff that has come out. And so here's another one. Here's another one from Phil. This one is another text that says, where did that one go? Says, on 114, Terrence Bradley says, like, she needs to fire Nathan, but she won't. Yeah. Yep. No, she won't. But she doesn't dispute it. Ashley says she will go down in flames for Nathan. And that's what's happening right now. It's like a slow train wreck. Terrence Bradley says, did you see this? Here's a news article. It's WSBTV News, Atlanta. Fulton County DA Fani speaks for the first time after the allegations of the special prosecutor affair. So that must be her church speech. Remember when she came out at church and said, why am I being criticized because of a black man? And we said, well, because you slept with him and paid him $1 million. That's why. Did you do that with Anna Cross? I don't think so. Did you do that with the other white guy who wrote the book on RICO? No, you didn't. That's why, Fani. It's not racist. It's because you're corrupt. So Terrence, on the 14th, is even sending her news. Says, did you see this? She says, yep. She all but admitted the relationship. She told her defense that she wasn't going to deny the affair, but now she is flawed and he is qualified. So today did not go well for her, says Ashley. Not sure who advises her to do that, but that backfired big time. And yeah, she's doubling down. Okay. All of this is doubling down on something that's already been exposed, which is a stupid thing to do. Unless you think you're going to win, but it's, you know, she's already caught. Terrence Bradley's here, says, you know, I hated her pandering to the black church, saying he was good enough for the white Republicans in good old Cobb County, but not good enough for me. What's the difference? Terrence Bradley says, that burned me up, man. Burned me up. Yeah, he was good enough for the white Republicans in good old Cobb County, but not good enough for me. And what's the difference? Well, you slept with him and paid him $1 million, give or take, over the last several years. And so, again, shout out to Phil Holloway for dropping the goods. And he was over there with Megyn Kelly today. And Megyn Kelly had another big drop as well. So congrats to Megyn Kelly and to Phil Holloway for the big break. And it is really great to see the materials. And so hopefully we see more of them. I know there's like 31 pages of them. And so, of course, as those drop, we are going to continue to cover them. And ultra shout outs to Phil and to Megan for bringing this news to us here today. So make sure you're following them, my friends. Phil Holloway is a good follow and a good dude and doing good analysis and good work. So shout out to our friend Phil. And we're going to retweet this while we're here. If you want to follow him on my timeline, boom, there it is. Go make sure you give him some love. And so we're very grateful to have those texts. So thank you for those, Phil. Now, some analysis, some reaction to some of this stuff. All right, the government prosecutors there, they say, we don't even care. It's all good. It's like, you know, they haven't proven their case. And here's one example from this, from local news. This is a former Cobb County prosecutor who says it's not that big of a deal at all. Here's this report from in Fulton County.
And Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade from prosecuting former President Donald Trump and others in the election interference case. 11 Alive's Molly Oak is looking at if testimony could influence a decision and what comes next in this case.
What's coming next?
I do not know when the relationship started.
Credibility issues with the witness. That's what former DeKalb District Attorney Robert James says was a big takeaway from court.
The defense took turns, you know, and I'll use a legal term of art, beating up on him, right? and they did. They beat up on him. And there was a lot of, I don't remember, I don't recall. But here's what we have to keep in perspective. He is not the DA's office witness, right? He's not the state's witness. He is the defendant's witness. They put him up, presumably to affirmatively prove that, you know, that this relationship or affair began before they said it began. And, you know, he never acknowledged that.
He is Terrence Bradley, a former law partner.
But he's not credible. And he did make some other pretty serious admissions that Fani was at their office. Don't know why she'd be doing that if she was the DA. And Fani also invited Nathan back to her office when she was not the DA. So there's a lot of indicia of a relationship. And this dude's credibility is shot. No one believes him at all.
Partner and divorce attorney for Nathan Wade. But at the end of the day, James says it's not the relationship timeline that's the focus. It's if there was financial gain.
Look, sex sells. Right? It's interesting. Everybody wants to talk about it. It's controversial. But at the end of the day, the judge, you know, his job is to be objective, and he's not caught up in who's, you know, involved in a relationship with who, you know, unless it proves financial benefit or financial gain on the part of the DA. And that's the ultimate question.
Another
That's
question?
so ridiculous.
What happens next?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's not about that anymore. We're way beyond financial benefit. We're now into material lies, perjury. Is Fani going to be charged? Is she going to be disbarred? Is the office going to be disqualified? Or is the sanction going to be so bad that it will not only be disqualification, but it will ultimately be dismissal?
Is going to have to make a decision, he being the judge, whether or not there is evidence in this case that the DA financially benefited from her relationship with Nathan Wade.
And if that were to happen, it would impact the current prosecution of former President Donald Trump.
If that's the case and he excludes the DA from the case, then her entire staff is excluded from the case. And so the case has to move from Fulton County to another DA's office in another county. A special prosecutor has to be appointed. And essentially we start all over.
Which is what they do not want to have happen. And so that's probably likely where this is going. Now, even Congress is paying attention to this. We've got Marsha Blackburn, a senator, coming up. Andy Biggs from Arizona is coming up. Everybody's keeping their eyes on this. And we know that Jim Jordan has been in contact with a whistleblower from Fulton County and has also sent subpoenas over to Fani-Willis as well. So there's a lot cooking. I know America First Legal filed a lawsuit. The Georgia Senate is sending subpoenas probably soon. There's a whole Senate resolution that's like a Fani-Willis J6 committee hearing. I mean, it's about to get hot in Georgia. And so that is not only my take, that's Andrew Weissmann's take. And he is a former Trump prosecutor. And if he's out here saying Fani is in a hot mess, you know things are a little bit rough over there. Here he was on MSNBC explaining.
So I really don't blame the defense. The defense is supposed to raise these kinds of issues.
That's true.
And just to be fair, the hearing then became a bit of a hot mess. That's the polite term.
All these technical legal terms.
Yes,
I really
exactly.
appreciate you guys today.
And so it really has become about whether there's a cover-up. And to be fair to the defense,
Covering up, the conspiracy goes like this, that she planned to have an affair with the second person she planned to hire to help with the case, and then he would buy her half of a meal?
Well, she and he have said,
Nice job. Is that Nicole? Is that her name? Oh, gosh.
no, when Wade was hired, there was no relationship going on. That's a contested issue. Second, they have said they roughly split the costs. That's a contested issue because there aren't a lot of hard records for that, hence all this information
it's all
about cash and how that worked. To be fair to the defense today with respect to Mr. Bradley, there were communications between Mr. Bradley and the defense where he apparently sent texts, God knows why he was doing it, but to the defense counsel.
Because he was busting her. He was telling the truth. He was being open. He was disgusted by this conduct from Fani and Nathan. That's why. He was telling the truth. Someone got to him, man, and I don't know what they got on him, but he flipped hard.
Saying, I know that they were having an affair before Wade was hired. Well, that's directly contrary to what Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade testified
in their affidavit.
And so he said that, and he said, I absolutely know that that's true. So they have that as a message. So, it's fair for them to call him. Then he testifies and says, I was purely speculating. Now, the judge is going to have to make a decision about whether that's credible or not. But you realize that this has sort of gone down this rabbit hole from an incredibly historic, important indictment.
That hurts.
And even if this all ends up going well for the Georgia prosecutor, there's this taint that I think was needlessly inflicted by a judge who might be very well intentioned, but I think was really inexperienced in terms of having this kind of hearing.
Oh, ridiculous. Give me a break, Andrew. So first of all, every judge is experienced with this type of a hearing, okay? You don't have this normally go on in law. When lawyers get busted, okay, normally lawyers realize, like, they're not idiots. They go, I've been busted. Okay, I'm so sorry. Like, there are these different indicia when you get a bar complaint. You say, was that person remorseful? Did they take remedial steps? Like, were they willing to correct themselves and all this? If you double down on it and now you say, now I'm under attack, and then the bar really has a problem with that. So my point is, you don't see behavior like Nathan Wade and Fani Willis in most jurisdictions. Most of the time, prosecutors, I have a lot of strong opinions about them, and they are in many ways problematic, but not this problematic, all right? And so the point is, no judge is going to have the DA come on there and scream at everybody and act like a maniac in court, and then have another attorney come in and lie and say the opposite of what he said previously. But I got to say, Weissmann was pretty accurate on this. It was a hot mess, and Nicole's trying to say, like, Fanny's under attack. She can't see the same things we're watching, but they are recognizing, I think, that this is not going good for her, and that, even Weissmann has to recognize a bad situation when we see it. So we also have Senator Marsha Blackburn. She is commenting on this, and she saw the same thing we did, saying this dude is about as evasive as it gets. So let's hear what she said about this on with Newsmax.
They're stunned. Right in and get your reaction to what everybody's watching.
Yes, everyone is watching this, and I think they're stunned when they have seen these text messages that have come from Nathan Wade, and now they're hearing as they take the stand, whether it is the star witness, this attorney, or it was Fani Willis or Nathan Wade, they're all of a sudden having amnesia and not able to recall dates and times and places. But what the American people want to see is an end to two tiers of justice. And they know that much of this has come at President Trump. They want to see everyone treated equally under the law. If Fani Willis and Nathan Wade had an inappropriate relationship, they want to see that properly dealt with within the rule of law.
And guys like Weissmann say that it was a historic indictment. Wow, so incredible, so amazing. No, it wasn't. It was all birthed out of this disgusting relationship between these two, right? That's the point, that she hired her lover to go and prosecute a case, knowing it was going to be a national case. She could pay him $1 million, go on vacays with her boyfriend. It wasn't historic. That just got deviated all of a sudden because their affair came out. It was corrupt from the beginning. The whole thing from its original source was tainted.
Yeah, Senator, it almost seems right now that we're getting to that point where, is this about lying or is this about covering up the crime?
Yeah.
When we're watching this line of questioning here from Trump's legal team, which is Steve Sadow, he's really zeroing in here on Terrence Bradley to get him to acknowledge specifically what he knows, but he's tap dancing around a lot of these questions.
And, you have to look at perjury and exactly how they're answering these questions. As you're saying, there's a lot of fancy footwork going on. There's a lot of trying to avoid the question. And there is, it's playing that old game of CYA. And I think the American people can see this. I am pleased that they're showing so much of this court proceeding because, as I said, the American people know there's two tiers of justice. They are fed up with it. They've grown ill and fatigued with the FBI and the Department of Justice and some of the Soros-backed DAs that continue to operate with two tiers of justice, that continue to try to find ways to make illegal legal and try to find ways to circumvent the rule of law.
Good stuff. Okay, Marsha Blackburn, senator from Tennessee. And I think she's right about this, that this amnesia is something we can all see through. It's not a good shtick, right? You're a lawyer. We know you remember a bunch of stuff. The dates all match up. You guys just be honest about it. But if they are honest about it, then they're going to resign in disgrace, and they'd rather be taken out as martyrs and blame the other side for it and just maintain and cling to power. Now, Andy Biggs is a representative from Arizona, and he was here explaining that a lot of this same maneuver is also being used in the Hunter Biden case, where you have these scandals where everybody just lawyers up and you have no distinction between the bro talk and the pro talk. What is privileged, what is not privileged? Here is Andy Biggs from Arizona. Shout out.
Kevin Morris, who is Hunter Biden's attorney, was claiming as well. He was saying, well, I'm his attorney, but we're good buddies. And he was trying to say that he didn't have to testify to virtually everything we were asking him. He was trying to claim attorney-client privilege. But the reality is, as this judge has correctly noted, there is a line between what you're doing on behalf of a client and what you're doing with a friend. And sometimes what your friend tells you is not privileged and is not a closed secret. It can be open to the public. Kevin Moore.
That's what we have now. And it's pretty obvious that Terrence Bradley knows a lot more than he let on. And the question is, are we going to get to the bottom of it? Now, Fani is in also some more hot water because apparently the Georgia Senate is going to be escalating their investigation. This came over from Breitbart. They say the Georgia Senate is about to authorize a subpoena-powered probe into Fani's misconduct. Wendell Hasibo wrote this one, and he said that soon, it wasn't this week because this article came out about 6 days ago, but soon, maybe by the end of this week, we'll see that there will be a subpoena-powered investigative committee that is enacted to probe the alleged corruption of Fani Willis. The proposed Georgia Senate committee could hold subpoena power as soon as later this week. To secure the attendance of witnesses and the production of documents and materials. That's according to a Georgia state senator called Greg Dolezal. The committee would be the only type of its kind in the state of Georgia, almost like a J6 committee. Oh, that's fun. It would comprise 9 senators, 3 of whom would be Democrats. That sounds fair. Yeah, so 6-3. That's fair because the J6 committee was 7-2, I believe. 7 Democrats, 2 so-called Republicans, Liz Cheney and Kinzinger, which nobody believes are actual Republicans. So that's fair. If it was 7-2 on the J6 committee, 6-3 is even more generous. They get an extra person. So the Georgia legislature has a responsibility to hold public officials accountable. That came out from Georgia Governor Burt Jones. And the timeline for the creation of this committee, it appears to be imminent. Dolezal will introduce the resolution on Monday. Then it will likely be assigned to the Senate Rules Committee on Tuesday. Upon approval from the Rules Committee, a Senate floor vote will be scheduled as soon as this week. If passed by the Senate, the Committee on Assignments will then appoint the members. And then this whole thing can really get going. And so there was a little bit more on this. This is the resolution that was ultimately submitted, and I do believe this was passed some time ago, actually. It created the Special Senate Committee on Investigations. They say it's come to the attention of the Georgia Senate through public reports and court filings that Fani, the DA for Atlanta Judicial Circuit, which comprises Fulton, has been accused of various forms of misconduct related to the prosecution of the RICO case. And this alleged misconduct, now this is the Senate, okay, this is not the court digging in. This alleged misconduct is of ongoing expenditure, includes the ongoing expenditure of significant public funds to Nathan Wade, with whom she had an ongoing romantic relationship. And if this relationship, if proven to exist, it would constitute a clear conflict of interest and fraud upon the taxpayers of Georgia. And it would establish grounds for her recusal from further involvement in the prosecution, and requiring a special prosecutor to be appointed, and even discipline by the State Bar of Georgia and other entities. They say Georgia has already borne a significant financial cost in hiring all this. There was a sprawling investigation. Maybe, they were on cruises a lot. Maybe they did or not. Now, if proven true, the allegations against Willis would bring her office into disrepute, too late for that, undermine public confidence in the trial, too late for that, and cast significant doubt as to the validity of the charges that are brought by her office. And this is why Fani is such a beautiful representative of the blue prosecutors. She's just great. I mean, it's perfect. She's like a caricature of a corrupt prosecutor, and she's basically their mascot for the rest of these prosecutions. They couldn't, this couldn't be worse for them in terms of PR. Now, these allegations may show that existing state laws, including these processes, are inadequate to verify and to solve this. And so the Senate has the power to make new laws, and the Constitution provides us the power to do that. And so that's exactly what we're doing. And we're exercising these powers to determine if this is true or in part, so we can make some changes. Maybe we'll reappropriate some money that she has gobbled up and paid to her lover. And so here's the creation. The committee shall be comprised of no more than 9 members, at least 3 of whom shall be from the minority. All members shall be appointed, and the rest of that is there. So we'll see if this one actually gets some momentum there in Georgia. I certainly hope it does, because the DA's office is disgusting and corrupt, and that is good news that they're investigating what's happening there. So, my friends, another breaking news day, and shout out to Phil Holloway and to Megyn Kelly for dropping those texts and for getting their hands on them. We, of course, are going to be here continuing to cover this saga and more, and we're coming back on Friday for summation argument. So make sure that you mark your calendars, subscribe, hit that like button so you don't miss us, but it's going to be near the end of the line here for Fani and Wade, and we're going to be here covering it. We also got some great stuff in the description box, some great links. RobertGovea.com if you want to grab any of the PDFs we talk about here on the show. We also have WatcherLodge.com where we have free events coming up. We'd love to see you join us. It's sovereignty and self-development. We're trying to improve our lives and our communities there. And also, of course, our members-only community where we do live streams every morning, including on Saturdays, at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. My friends, wherever you join us, we'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one. All right. And so, new text messages afoot. And my friends, thank you so much for the notifications. Apparently, SCOTUS, I'm seeing some very nice donos. Thank you, Ray K. I saw this old guy sent one in, and some other comments. Apparently, SCOTUS is going to hear the immunity case. Ooh. And MSNBC is having a meltdown on that. So Supreme Court accepted Trump's request for a stay. So Jack Smith apparently, it looks like, has been stayed. Oh, he's going to be so mad. All right. We'll see if we can pull up a story or two on that one. But before we get there, let's talk about Tishy Letitia. Tish James, the AG from New York, who is obsessed with Trump, has now got a little of financial scrutiny herself. And this is a great report from Village Crazy Lady. And this explains that Tishy had some ghost donos, some donors who may have been sending her money from untraceable sources. And so we're going to go through this thread and hear more about some reaction about what's happening in New York with Tish James, the AG. Here is the thread. from Village Crazy Lady over on the X platform. She goes by the name Mel. Here's the story. Says, you know, when I got asked to look into Letitia last week, I wasn't expecting to find much. And as you probably know, James is the attorney general against Trump, who's got a $450 million order against him. So some background. Tish, she was elected as the New York AG in 2018, reelected in 2022. Now, prior to that, she was a public advocate for 4 years, whatever that is, and a New York City Council member for 8 years before that. Prior to that, she was a public defender for legal aid. So in other words, she's a lifelong public servant, so-called, and other than a mishap in 2010, where she neglected to list the Brooklyn brownstone property that she owns and rents out, she hasn't had any public scandals. So is Tish going to have a special prosecutor that she's indicting like Fani? Probably not. But with that said, Mel did find something, and this has now gotten 1.2 million views, right? This thread is fire. Now, with that being said, I'm not quite sure what I was expecting to find, but I wasn't expecting what I found. The first thing you'll notice when you download and sort the expenditures of any politician running for re-election is in a safe seat is how they use their campaign funds to increase and supplement their lifestyles in a way that none of us ever could. What do I mean, says Mel? Well, in 2023 alone, James spent over $28,000 on hotels. Over $15,000 of that was spent on luxury hotels in Puerto Rico, which is curious. She's the New York Attorney General. Why is she using campaign money in Puerto Rico? Is she campaigning down there? Don't know. Is she doing... Maybe she was meeting up with Fannie and Wade. I don't know. But they were at luxury hotels. And so here she's done an analysis on this. 28 grand on all these different hotels. Massachusetts, New York, Puerto Rico, multiple times. Coronado Palm Inn in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Hotel Caribe, San Juan, Puerto Rico. We got Edgar Hotel, Massachusetts. Another one, New York. The Royal Sonesta, Puerto Rico. What's she doing in Puerto Rico? $28,000. Now, then there's the airfare, right? In the last 5 years alone, she's been the New York AG. She spent over 84 grand on airfare to fly herself all over the country. This includes private jet rentals. So here you go. Hotels, 117 grand. Airfare, 84 grand. Car rentals, 15 grand. Meals and catering. We knew that was going to be a big one. I mean, you know, we were like, whoa. 100 grand. Obviously, knew that was coming. Reimbursements, 65 grand for a total of 384 grand in expenditures over those 5 years. That's a lot of campaign cash, man. Now she's built, and remember, she's all up in Trump's Excel spreadsheets like, this is wrong and you can't do this. Even though no one was complaining about it, there was business that was done by the banks. The banks were perfectly happy with it. They called him a whale employer. No one was harmed. No one lost any money. It was all pure negotiation. And Trump got a financial audit and a rectal exam, okay? And now questions about Tish. Is her house in order before she starts casting stones? Here Mel says she billed her campaign over 20 grand a year for meals. We knew that was coming, like clearly. That seems a little bit low, actually. And no, these aren't large catering events. 20 grand, campaign meals. These are receipts from everything, okay? Here are the receipts. $18 at Dunkin' Donuts. I'm sure. I don't know what a dozen costs, but that sounds about right. Probably breakfast. $60 at Dave & Buster's while she's playing video games on her lunch. $165 at an oyster bar. That's nice. And $700 at a steakhouse in Brooklyn. I wonder what that was for. Golly. Did she got the lobster, didn't she? Then there's thousands that are spent on Uber and Lyfts all over the place. Tens of thousands also, right? Tens of thousands of dollars are spent on office at everywhere from Target to BJ's to wholesale, BJ's wholesale, whatever that means. So over $7,000 was dropped at a nightclub in New York City, and that was billed as office, okay? So she looked through this, City Nights Hospitality, a 10 Columbus Drive, New York. I don't even know what that is. It sounds like it's a nightclub. She looked it up. $7 grand. How does that get codified and established as a billing record? Office. That sounds like fraud. Office supplies? Like Cloudflare, okay, that is an office supply. Or you could say that's necessary for your office. That's a DNS server, right? It helps you connect your DNS and your websites and all that stuff. Yeah, office costs. So yeah, you have a monthly $20 Cloudflare fee. $826, $20. $926, $20. That's all categorized appropriately. Conando Vanderbilt Hotel, though, for $700. Is that office? Is that an office supply? Costco, okay, $184, office. Sure, copy paper, hand sanitizer, whatever you need, So that's fine. Crown Plaza Desmond, $5,000 for office. So it sounds like maybe that is not above board kind of characterization. It sounds like a hospitality bill is probably not an office supply. So anyways, now I could go on, says Mel, and make sure you're following Village Crazy Lady, no A in the Village, says, the multiple stays at Beverly Hills, Wilshire, the $65,000 that Letitia, she got in reimbursements, okay, for campaign consultants, which could literally be anything. No one has any idea what those mean. 65 grand just going out the door for campaign consultants. She says, speaking of these campaign consultants, can anyone tell me why a state attorney general would need to spend over 300 grand in 1 year on campaign consultants when they just won re-election on a previous November? What on earth could she possibly be consulting on? And furthermore, why do these $1 million, quote, campaign consultancy firms, why do they always seem to be ran out of the same random 2-bedroom apartments? What's going on here? Here is what you'll see in this image, and she has done some incredible analysis on this. Take a look. Here is the spreadsheet. Authorized Single Candidate Committee, Culver Place Strategies, all at 160 Columbia Heights, apartment 2C. That's weird. Is it like a nephew or somebody who's like doing social media posts? Weird. $500. Oh, fundraising. Other must provide an explanation. I wonder what that was for. Same place. But look at this. $1,800 fundraising, $5,000 fundraising, $10,000 now going up for fundraising. So I'd love to be able to sort by this date to see if those prices went up. But look at that. 20 grand for fundraising to some dude in apartment 2C. Fundraising, 26 grand, 20 grand. A lot of expenditures. And that all comes from James for New York to some dude in apartment 2C. Whatever he's doing. So very curious, right? Now, says to be certain, okay, I'm not accusing Miss James of breaking the law with her expenditures, but considering the high bar that she set for Trump in his civil fraud case, I can find it more than a little galling that she plays so fast and loose with what she deems to be legitimate campaign expenses. Here's what she's got. $4,335 at Nathan's Lux Lifestyle. What's that? Nathan's Lux Lifestyle. That's on Martha's Vineyard last August. Martha's Vineyard. Nathan's Lux Lifestyle. The heck's that going on? $5,000 were dropped at the 48 Lounge in New York City last September under the expense code called office. Office supplies, okay? Office expense, 48 Lounge. $5 grand at a nightclub. $4 grand at Nathan's Lux Lifestyle. All campaign money, prosecuting Trump money. Here are the documents. Nathan's Lux Lifestyle, 71 Alpine Ave, Vineyard Haven in Massachusetts, for lodging, right? For lodging on that one. This one's $5,000 for office. It's not office expenses. What, she's taking the whole office out? $5 grand for like a party or something? I mean, maybe that's a theory. Maybe it's a party. It's like Fani had like first 100 days, whatever. Maybe these are, nightclub Tish parties. Who knows what's going on over there? So you might be wondering, right? Where's all that money come from? Are people donating to these people so they can just have grift accounts and they can just go on Puerto Rico trips multiple times? Mel says, well, here's where things get interesting, because it appears that our holier-than-thou Attorney General, Tish James, she has gotten herself wrapped up, in a ghost donor scam. Now, I knew the ghost donor bots weren't just operating at the federal level, says Mel, but I had no clue how big it was at the state level. And here's a list of Miss James's total donations and their corresponding receipts by year. Question for you, my friends. Does anything jump out at you? Let's take a look. Letitia James contributions 2018, 3.9 million. Number of receipts, 2,900. In-state donors are 2,500. Out-of-state donors are 413. Wow, watch this. You can see the trend right now. Let me move my big fat head out of the way so you can see what happens. 2019, $730,000, 1,200 receipts, 1,000 in-state, 123 out-of-state. You know where this is going. Look at the 2022 year. 2020, 400,000 brought in. Almost all in-state donos, only 253 out of 1,800 that are out of state. Then in 2022, 3.2 million comes in, 32,000 total number of receipts. In-state donors are 12,000, but the out-of-state donors, look at that number, is 20,000, okay? Then you got in 2023, the numbers dropped way off again. Not an election year. She's back down to 1.6 million, 2,800 total receipts, and now it's about split, in-state versus out-of-state donors. Actually, out-of-state donors still overtake in-state donors. So something happened, right? We go from a bunch of in-state donors to a bunch of out-of-state donors basically overnight. So let's see where this goes. And she's collecting millions of dollars. Now, obviously, 2022 is off the charts, okay? Over 32,000 receipts, and over 62% of those are from out of state. Who the heck donates to an AG running in a totally safe seat in a whole other state? Answer, ghost donors do. Take, for instance, this woman, her name is Suzanne, right? Suzanne is from Sioux Falls in South Dakota. Now, Miss Suzanne, she must have to be one of the most faithful Democrat donors on the planet. Suzanne, you know. Not only did she make 3,232 individual donations to Act Blue in just 1 year, but Suzanne, in addition to 3,200 individual donations, so that's like multiple donations a day, in 1 year, that totaled more than $46,000. It's like a dono bot. Weird, right? So Suzanne from Sioux Falls, not employed, doesn't even have a job. Here's the sum of this stuff. Man, this is some good details. Shout out to Mel. So Act Blue, donos come in every day, every year, 2022, multiple times, small contributions that nobody even bats an eye at. $6, $7, $2, $15, $10, $2, $2, $12, $5, 10, 15, 2, 5, 1, 1, 2, 5, 7. All day. Dono bots, all day. Just chunking money in there. Now, it looks like small amounts. It's $46,000. $46,000. And it's how many times in 1 year? 32,000, divide that by 365, and there you go. So the dono bots are out in force. But she also, this woman, Suzanne, she also found the time and the money to also make 25 separate donations for $266 to Tishy's campaign, and another $305 to Kathy Hochul. And she didn't stop there. I found Suzanne's name on the donor rolls in Nevada, Idaho, and Virginia. That's weird. How is she a voter in all these different states? Or how about this lovely old lady, Barbara from Silver Springs? Oh yeah, Barbara and Suzanne, okay? They're misappropriating some nice names out there. They say Barbara from Silver Springs, fake entity, Maryland. Miss Barbara apparently is a retired 71-year-old widow living in a modest townhouse. Not only living in a modest townhouse there in Maryland. She made 1,547 donos to Act Blue. That was at the federal level, and she's donating $37,000. Weird. Again, weird. 25 bucks, 20 bucks, 25, 10, 3, 38, 25, 25, 10, 3, 10, 5, 6, 10. Multiple donos a day, three plus a day. She's retired. Her name's Barbara, and she just hates Trump, you know. And so she's just every day, just $5, I'll donate. $5, I'll donate. 15 bucks, I'll donate. 50 bucks. No, it's right. That's ridiculous. So it's clearly something that's automated. Now, she also gave Letitia James $610 total in 34 separate transactions. And then she dumped some money into Nevada, Massachusetts, and Wisconsin. So Barbara is just going hog wild all over the place. Here, now this one is going to James for New York. Lots of money. $610, multiple dates. 5, 10, 25, 10, 20, 10, 10, 10, 10. Okay, multiple dates all through 2022. Just pumping money into Tish. Now, I could go on and on, but y'all get the point, okay? Almost every name I grabbed from James's 2022 donor list had at least 200 plus donations at the federal level for 2022, and tons of them had over 2,000 bucks, okay? 2,000, I'm sorry, donations. 2,000 donations, bop, 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 just funneling money in under Barbara and Suzanne's name. All right. Now, it turns out ghost donors are just as big of a problem at the state level as they are at the federal level. And so to recap, says, we've got known entities funding our state and federal elections, and everywhere you turn, there's a sleazy, disgusting politician using this tainted campaign money to fund their extravagant lifestyles. And it's absolutely true. And so Mel says, if you enjoyed this thread, and we very much did, feel free to buy Mel a cup of coffee and share this story to help support independent journalism like this one from Mel. And so I retweeted the very top layer of this thread earlier today. And so make sure, my friends, you're following at Village without the A, Crazy Lady on X, because this thread was just a burner. And obviously, right, Tish, she is clearly hypocritical, right? She's prosecuting Trump for made up financial fraud when she's in the middle of it, smack dab in the middle of it, getting botted with thousands of dollars of donos from Lord knows who. Is anybody going to investigate Tish? Is anything going to happen to her? Or is she just going to be able to run free, run hog wild in this dictatorial state of New York? So we got questions about what's happening with the Engoron ruling. Judge Napolitano was out here, and he had a little bit of a take on this. And so we'll listen to what he said about what is coming next there in New York with the judge. Here is what he says.
Andrew Napolitano. Judge, welcome into Newsline. Great to have you today, sir.
Thank you, Bianca.
Since we know let's talk about the appeal. Engoron committed errors of law and or fact. That's one thing, but a lot of people are talking about the 8th Amendment violation against excessive fines. What do you think?
Well, the 8th Amendment, unfortunately for the former president, has only been interpreted and used in the criminal context. Even though it says fines, it really means punishment and fines for crimes. But this is such a weird, odd case because the penalty is extraordinary. The loss of $400 million going up $100,000 a day for a crime not committed and harm not caused. He didn't harm anyone. The people that he borrowed money from, Deutsche Bank, their executives got on the witness stand, looked the judge in the eye and said he paid back everything to the penny and on time. And then this executive from the bank looked at the former president and said, by the way, Mr. President, if you want to get back in this business after you leave the White House, we'll be happy to be your lender again.
Probably not in the state of New York, though. I wish.
So, yeah, it is a total scam over there. And we have Elise Stefanik, who is calling it out. She was speaking at CPAC, and she had a take on it. Let's see what she said.
That historic hearing showed that one voice supported by the American people can set off an earthquake and a reckoning and help save our country. We cannot give up. The life of our country is at stake, and as we all know, the closer President Trump gets to victory, the dirtier the Democrats, their stenographers in the media, and the corrupt prosecutors will get.
Like Tish
They
and
will
Fani.
stop at nothing, and I mean nothing, in their attempt to steal this next election. We saw Democrats baselessly impeach President Trump twice. They indicted him 4 times for non-crimes and are trying to bankrupt him and destroy his successful business. In my home state of New York, far-left Democrat New York Attorney General Tish James, who campaigned on going after President Trump, she teamed up with an unethical Democrat Manhattan judge to unconstitutionally impose a nearly $500 million penalty on Trump for the victimless non-crime of paying back banks in full, on time, as agreed, with interest. It's corrupt.
And she's herself corrupt with her own ghost donors funneling a bunch of money into her campaign, and she's spending it on nightclubs and other things that are not appropriate. The question is, will anybody investigate her? We know she's not going to investigate herself, but some people are doing investigations, and so we're going to throw it over to James O'Keefe. Apparently, my friends, James O'Keefe went and had a workout with Judge Engoron Areola the Nip. And you can see here, he says that together they pushed it to the limit and they got their exercise done. And so James O'Keefe is saying that he is releasing a video that shows him and Engoron getting their swole on. And so make sure you go follow him. They are dropping that any minute. And so it's going to be good, I'm sure. And so we'll talk about it very soon. James O'Keefe walked up to the Nip and says, "Excuse me, I'm a huge fan, Judge." So it's going to be great. Make sure you're following James O'Keefe to go get that story. It's going to be just a lot of fun. So, my friends, Tishy has ghost donors. She's got a lot of problems in her financial background. Will anybody investigate it? The great village crazy lady, Mel, certainly did. And so we're going to continue to cover this. A lot is happening in New York. Trump's trial for the criminal case, the Michael Cohen case, is coming up very soon. And so we're going to be here covering this one and more. We hope you join us as we do. Thank you so much for subscribing. We're covering all of the Trump litigation, the ballot removal stuff, the Supreme Court stuff, all the criminal cases, all the civil cases, and more. And so we'd love to see you join us. We have a lot of great links in the description below, including robertgovea.com, where you can sign up for our daily newsletter, get all these segments delivered to your inbox. We have our PDFs there as well. We have member-only live streams at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We do streams in the morning before we come live here. We have Saturday streams. And we also have watcherlodge.com, which is our new sovereignty and self-development community. We've got great events coming up for free. So check out all those descriptions, all the links down in the description below. And we'll look forward to seeing you back here, my friends, on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, we covered some good ground on the day, and we're grateful to have you here. We covered Tishy and her ghost donors. Terrence Bradley's texts are slowly dripping out, and this dude is in total disarray. And Trump's charges must be dismissed because they are void for vagueness. No one knows what they mean, and so they can't be valid under our constitutional order. So now, my friends, it is time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about all of this and more. As soon as we're done, we are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members-only after party, and we'd love to see you there. But who is joining us in the house today, my friends? Thank you for the great donos. And we also saw that there was some Supreme Court news. My goodness, we saw that. So they have accepted the immunity case, which is going to be fun. All right, we'll get to that. Let's see who is here. We got Katie S. is in the house. Welcome aboard, Katie S. A new member over on the YouTubes. Hey, Larry's here. Says, some saw other law tubers say it was fairly common knowledge that about Willis and Wade. What if the judge knew or heard the gossip prior to the trial? How do you think that would affect his disqualification ruling? I don't think that it really would, honestly. I don't think that's an element of it. I mean, the judge may know that they're lying, and that may impact his credibility. He might say, like, maybe he was at lunch and he's watching Fannie and Wade like frolic through the meadows together. Like, that's weird. Fannie and Wade are like skipping through the court building. Why are they holding hands? You know, like he could, well, I saw you guys, so I know you're lying, you know, but otherwise, I think he's going to keep his personal stuff out of it. But it's a good question. Even if it was common knowledge, he's going to be looking at now lying, really, right? Materiality to the case and whether they were lying and dishonest is going to go to their credibility. Great question. T. Lewis is in the house, says, hello, Rob, and hello, my fellow watchers. Hello, T. Lewis. Beautiful day to you, my friends. Hey, Richard Jack says, hey, everybody. How they hanging over there? Well, you know how they are. You know, Ravicus is here. The man who sold America. Mitch McConnell stepping down. Mitch McConnell is saying the long goodnight from the Senate. Quarter Native says, Rob, O'Keefe Media Group busted Judge Engoron being a creeper. Whoa. Is he creeping on James? Oh my gosh, I can't wait to watch that one. Hey, what's up? Ulsterman says, Rob, my identical twin boy's birthday is on Leap Day. Could you please wish them a big Fanny 16th birthday tomorrow? Love your coverage of the cases. So good. I'll try my best to remember that, Ulsterman. I'll try to remember that one. We'll try to save that one in the memory bank. If you could remind us tomorrow, that'd be very, very helpful. I'd be happy to say big Fanny 16th birthday to your two boys. I'd be happy to. We'll do it tomorrow. Happy pre-birthday to your two boys. Happy Fanny birthday to them both. Richard Jack says, yay! Hot yogurt for everyone. Yay! Which is probably not a good meal, you know? Probably not. Luke's television review is here. Says not that he needs it, but it would be fitting for the bank, which was supposedly defrauded, to offer to loan President Trump the bond money at 0% interest. That would be interesting, right? If they did that. That would be very interesting if they did that. Like if Deutsche Bank did that. Oh, well, hey, you're such a good client. We'll give you $500 million. Here, just go take it. Give it to the judge. We know you're good for it. Have a good day. From Deutsche Bank. It's a good idea. Hey, what's up? Aaron Gladning says, hey, what Lucas said. Hey, support Lucas. It was a good comment. Yeah, 0% interest. We know he's good for it. We don't feel screwed at all. Sam in Texas has been a membo for 5 months. Says, okay, only one more trimester to go. Says, thank God my back is killing me. Well, you look beautiful, Sam. You look beautiful, sweetheart. You look great. You look fabulous. Yeah, it's going to come soon. What can I get you? You want a pillow? All right. Good to see you, Sam. 5 months as a membo. Baby coming soon. We got this one from Glocky. He says, Rob, breaking news. The Supreme Court stalls, as they say. They're so biased. They can't help themselves. The Supreme Court stalls Trump's federal election trial while weighing his immunity bid. Do you mean that, how about the Supreme Court grants Trump's federal election petition while considering his immunity bid, right? He's not stalling it. This is process. This is due process. He's allowed to go through this, and he deserves to have a fair accounting of the case. Give me a break. Hey, what's up? This old guy says SCOTUS granted cert on Trump's immunity claim. We're definitely going to talk about that tomorrow. I'm sure there's a lot of meltdowns happening all over the place. Oral arguments in April. Wait, whoa. Probably June before the ruling. Jackie Smith is stayed. Okay, so that's interesting. June before the ruling. All right, we'll have to take a look at the timeline. Yeah, that's interesting. I think Trump's going to be successful on the immunity claim. I honestly do. We got Jesser Bob says, what do you call a bossy potato? A dictator. Get it? A dictator. Tater. I get it. It's funny. Hey, what's up? Ulsterman says, it's a bad day not to mention the birthday boys' names. Dylan and Luke. Happy pre-birthday tomorrow. Happy pre-Fanny birthday to Dylan and Luke at the Ulsterman household. Good to see you, Ulsterman. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Essential Bites says, what's up, Rob? SCOTUS takes up immunity. Man, you guys are on it. Thank you for that, Essential Bites. And we'll see if there's anything worth digging into on that one tomorrow. There probably will be. We got TW1G. says, we need a baseball meme for the interaction between Ashley and Bradley. Ashley's the batter, Bradley's the pitcher, and Wade is the catcher giving signs. Yeah, I see. Like Wade's over there at the bench, like, you know, he's like this. Cut it, cut it, cut it. You know, like this, like, no, cut it. And yeah, it's like pitcher signs, yeah. Hey, Michael Swade says, Trump granted cert on J6 immunity. Oral argument scheduled for April 22nd, and that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be covering that one live. We'll get that on the calendar, no doubt. Thank you, Michael, for the heads up. Hey, British Gridiron Film says, I do not recall sending a donation. You did. There it is. But if you don't recall, then this donation, it must just be speculation. There's no evidence of this donation anywhere. I don't recall anything. I don't know what happened. This looks like that $2 is totally speculative. I can't even see it. What are you talking about? Where is it? Hey, what's up? Hers says, Norwegian Cruise Line is registered in Norway and it sails out of Miami to carry the Caribbean. It's NCL, the Norwegian Cruise Line. I know I was catching some grief about this because I kept saying they went to Norway. And they're like, people are like, Rob, they didn't go to Norway, okay? It's called Norwegian Cruises. I said, well, how do you know they didn't go to Norway? I said, well, because they went to Belize. And I said, well, does the Norwegian Cruise Line go to Belize? And I said, well, probably. It goes in the Caribbean. And I said, well, how come it doesn't go to Norway? It's Norwegian. And it turned into this whole thing. So, you know, I don't know where cruises go. I'm not a cruise connoisseur, okay? I'm not Fanny and Wade. They're connoisseurs for sure. But even if they didn't go to Norway, I bet that they wanted to. They wanted to go see the Aurora Borealis up there. What's this one? A middle-aged cougar was caught in a trap. That's from Ravicus. Thank you for the update. I hope he gets free and can, you know, live his life normally, unless he was being a problem to the local area. Then there might be some other, you know, recourse necessary, but hopefully he's okay. We got this one from Sandy. Says, the judge narrowed Bradley's testimony to exclude his representation in the false interrogatories as a way out. Bradley knew at the time he submitted false interrogatories. Wade did, and that Wade was doing stuff with Fanny, and that would be confessing to a fraud upon the court in the divorce case. Watch the judge in the beginning of this, and you see the body language of the judge giving up on Bradley right away, knowing he gave him the protection of the subject of the interrogatories. I think you're right on that, Sandy. He gave him the benefit of the doubt, said, you know, come out here and correct the record, and he lied again. It was really bad. Mexican Marauder says, these texts, in my opinion, show why Miss Merchant was so easy on Bradley. She kept trying to give him a chance, but he didn't take it. Sad. It was sad. And it was almost like self-immolation. It's like, what are you doing, dude? Everyone knows. Stop faking it. We can all see your texts now. We got Leanne says, indecent proposal starring a Woody O. Fanny Pants. Like Woody Harrelson and Fanny Pants. Good to see you, Leanne. We got Pinochet's helicopter tour. Says, there are reports that the White House has inserted operatives into the Trump cases. Why were there no questions about White House personnel asked? And is that normal? Well, I don't, you mean of Terrence Bradley? I think that probably was outside of the scope of relevance. It wasn't relevant for yesterday's hearing. And I don't know that they asked, did they ask Nathan Wade a little bit about that? Yeah, I think, the stuff that was relevant to the hearing was the relationship and financial stuff and materiality. So I don't know that was necessarily related to the relationship. I think that's probably the reason. Hey, what's up, Flagpole Guy? I think we've got a poem. He says, Fanny and Wade sitting in the cell. We should have told the truth. Here we go. Start it over. Fanny and Wade sitting in the cell. We should have told the truth. What the hell? Trump's sitting in the sun and we're friggin' done. God said no, but we love the dough. Our Fanny's gonna hurt. Oh gosh, Flagpole Guy. Talking about Bubba in the jails. Not good. We got Old Drill Sergeant. Says another great stream. Thank you, Old Drill Sergeant. Membo for 5 months. We got Ray K says, good evening, Rob. The chat wants you to touch on the SCOTUS taking up the immunity question. And we definitely got news of that. Thank you, Ray K, for bringing it up. And it's amazing. Hey, Glocky saying, Hey, let's check in on MSNBC and the news that SCOTUS is going to hear the immunity case. Someone needs to put them on protection watch. We got a couple links here. Okay, so those are funny. We'll save those probably for tomorrow. Thank you, Glocky, for sharing those. MPK, what's up, MPK? Our newest dono in the house. Thank you for that, MPK. Your first dono. Thanks for being here and joining with us. We got another one from Flagpole Guy. We'll save that one for another time. Knox says, happy Wednesday, all. I must say, I cannot wait for everyone to dig into our bench destroyer, Tishy. So lovely. Yeah, and that was a nice deep dive from our friend Mel. Good to see you, Knox. Happy Wednesday to you. Glocky says, here's a link. Trump says, Trump posted this, and Glocky, thanks for sharing it, says, legal scholars are extremely thankful for the Supreme Court's decision today to take up presidential immunity. Without presidential immunity, a president will not be able to properly function or make decisions in the best interest of the United States of America. Presidents will always be concerned and even paralyzed by the prospect of wrongful prosecution and retaliation after they leave office. This could actually lead to the extortion and the blackmail of a president. The other side would say, if you don't do something just the way we want it, we're going to go after you when you leave office, or perhaps even sooner. From Trump, and he's right about that. And I think SCOTUS is going to agree. Dolphin fan is the man in the house, bringing in Richard Tatership. We got T. Oliver, 24/7 Live. We got Cecilia M., Fire P., Carlene P., and Backseat Driver all coming in, courtesy of Dolphin fan is the man in the house. We got Knox, a defense attorney in Texas, says, Hotel Caribe in San Juan is amazing. My last vacation 7 years ago. And boy, do those gals love their gore meals. I'm having ramen tonight from Knox. Unfortunately, we all don't have $1 million campaign coffers that we can just dish out all over the place. Ramen's pretty good, by the way. I mean, it's a pretty solid meal there. Easy to make, quite filling. You can spice it up, throw some frozen vegetables in there, whatever. So I lived on it for a long time, Knox. Happy Wednesday, and hopefully we can get you on a vacation again soon here. I know we're all not Tishy, though. We got Knitting Kitten. What's up, Knitting Kitten in the house? A new dono and a new membo. Thank you for that, Knitting Kitten. We got Object Class Keeter says, this looks like a necessary evil for these 4 years. These years showed how bad and deep the corruption goes. To the people, to us, and to start the process to out the corruption in all levels and branches of government. You're right about that, Object Class. I don't think that there's any other person, probably alive, who could take the amount of lawfare and stress and abuse that Trump has. I mean, it's wild that the dude is still even standing and he's not, exploded with stress. It's wild. And you're right. He's like a lightning rod, right? All of the evil lightning lawfare is being focused specifically on him, and we can see it. And so they're showing us who they are. It's a great comment. John McGarvey in the house. Thank you for clipping that. We got this one. Glocky is sharing the Supreme Court order, and it looks like it's a very short order. Okay. The application for a stay. The special counsel's request to stay the application as a petition is granted, and that petition is granted to the following question, which we saw. So here are some dates. There we go. Oral arguments, April 22, and briefs are due by March 19th, so it's coming up soon. Okay, whew, there are the dates. Okay, cool. So we'll unpack more of that tomorrow. Thanks, Glocky, for sharing that one and sending that one in. Hey, more appointment clause. Says, Rob, my client and I would like to share an important appointment and commission clause matter with you. In short, this regards a DOJ-wide appointment clause violation decades in the making. Does your platform permit you or your designee to message me back? Not from here. So the best way to get at me, more appointment, is probably via email. And I'll drop that on locals as soon as we're done here. Of course, I'll drop that in the reply to you. We got Truth in Actions in the house. Says, blank is not a high-end apartment. If you look around on Google, you'd think that with that kind of money, they would live in a swank place. From Truth in Action over on the locals. Geg from the UK says, Rob, About Suzanne in Sioux Falls, it was James O'Keefe who exposed a lot of these multi-daily donations as totally fraudulent. Most of the people had no idea Act Blue and others were even donating in their names. Man, James O'Keefe really delivers. Shout out. Glocky says Act Blue goes deep. They literally steal people's monies and identities to launder money, and James O'Keefe found that out in a prior story, man. Good stuff. Shout out to James. Dale Miller says 45 and 24 equals 47. Love your channel. Been watching for 2 or 3 years and maybe more. Good to see you, Dale. Thanks for watching for so long, my friend. And thanks for sending in a dono and supporting our work here. Amazing. We got some guy with cancer. Cancer sucks. Says SCOTUS just granted Trump's stay. Let the meltdowns begin. We certainly will see that. We got Jesser Bob. Says, I think Suzanne and Barbara may have received an email from a Nigerian prince. Yeah. He just needed to send them some money so he could forward the ladies his fortune. These are not really Democrat donations. Yeah. Yeah. You know those Nigerian prince emails? Like, I have to send you $1,000, but in order to send you 1,000, you got to send me 500. That way I know it works. Whatever. That's what's happening. This old guy says, Rob, you know, that nightly bottle service is expensive. And, you know, Tish really doesn't like to have to ask multiple times for her drinks to be refreshed. Fanny loves Grey Goose. Jennifer says, have a great day watching the Watchers fam. And thanks, Rob. And thank you, Jennifer, for being here and for the dono. Roy says, could the ghost donos be Soros' dead grand or great grandparents? Could be. Yeah, I don't know. Soros has a lot of money. I'm sure he could figure it out. Doxson says, hey, good evening, Rob. Do you think we'll get a verdict Friday on Fanny's case? No, I don't think so. I expect that we'll have a written opinion from the judge. Anyway, here's a palate cleanser for everyone. If you're on locals, you can click that. It's Joe Biden Senior Living Center, which is a fun one. Hey, check out this from Cat Turd on X. It's adult themed, so check that out on locals, of course, where things get a little spicier. We got Pete S. says, did it appear the Willis or Wade testified with candor? No, I don't think so at all. I think they were lying through their teeth, both of them. And they both looked like it too. And that's why they pounded the table. When they couldn't pound the facts or pound the law, they pounded the table, and it was obvious. Truthfinder says Fox News reported that Terrence Bradley said, oh, dang, when confronted with his text by Ashley. And that Gabe Banks, his wife, is Fanny's chief of staff. The hole is being dug deeper and daylight is disappearing. It's too funny. Good comment, Truthfinder. Yeah, I saw those headlines, and it's just corruption through and through. D. London says, do you think the prosecution bringing up Bradley's assault allegation was a veiled threat of prosecution by Fanning? It's as good a theory as any of them. You know, they must know something about this dude that we don't know. There must be something else that caused him to flip. I mean, the text messages we read today were unequivocal. He had a problem with them. Now he doesn't. Why is that? I do not know. We'll see. We'll see. Rocky says, Rob, I thought my water had broken earlier, and I was all excited, but then realized I've been a member for like 2 years or something. So I'm thinking I might need to leave early to go to see a doctor. Yeah. I think it's only supposed to take 9 months. But I wanted to get in a quick dono first. Thanks as always, dude. And Rocky, thank you for being a member for so long. And I know on locals, we don't have the baby feature that's built in. But Rocky, you've been a member for a long time, man. You're very supportive here. We absolutely love having you. 2 years, man, is just awesome. So thanks so much, brother. And we're grateful that you're here. And hopefully you're having a beautiful day. We got this one from B-Man says, I think Fanny is just face of the case and that plant from DNC is doing the work behind the scenes. That's probably true. I think there's a lot of that going on. I mean, I don't think Letitia did anything in that entire case. She just sat there and gave, tweets. There's other people who are moving the gears. Fanny was on vacation most of the time. We got James O'Keefe investigated Act Blue last year from Knox. Yeah, that's great. And so that's kind of an extension of his work. That's great work. We got Neurodivergent says, Rob, you should talk to Viva or Barnes about Amos Miller, the Amish farmer. What they are doing to him could affect everyone's food sovereignty. That's a good idea. I love those guys. Shout out to Viva and Barnes. They do great work over there too. And they get to a lot of stuff that we can't get to here. So check them out. Viva, barneslaw.locals.com. They're right next door. We also have, right next door is Viva on YouTube. So make sure you're checking them out. We got Stephen M. says, don't spike the ball before crossing the goal line. That's always good advice. Yeah, this judge could come out and totally blindside us and say, well, it's not material. And I'm not going to take the extreme step of dismissing the case of national importance when it's not material to the underlying facts at issue. Something like that, right? Maybe they lied to me, but we're going to keep the case going because they're just lying about a personal thing and it's not material. Something like that. What's up? One Ranger says, love you, brother. New member from Lake Tahoe. Love you back, One Ranger. Thank you for saying that. And shout out to our friends in Lake Tahoe. I don't think I've ever been there to Lake Tahoe. I don't think I've ever been there. I'd love to go. We got Flash River says, Ravicus's comment about the cougar caught in the traps was a reference to middle-aged women hunting younger men. It was a cougar caught in a trap. Who was that? That was Fani? She got busted? Cougars! I get it now. I get it. I'm a little thick in the head sometimes. Stephen M. says, it's hilarious they granted Citizen Smith a request for cert and they denied Trump's request for stay as moot. LOL. Yeah, so they're like, hey, Jack, we're going to give you exactly what you want and then stay the underlying case. I got to read it and look into it. That's funny, Stephen. Thank you for that. And Glenn, wrapping it up. Thank you, Glenn, sending in this final dono. Says, Rob's James O'Keefe secretly recorded Judge Engoron. I know. I can't wait to watch it. Have you guys seen it? Is it out yet? So have you guys actually seen it? I'm sure. I think he said he was releasing it at 4 p.m. Eastern time, which is past now. So amazing. So amazing. So thank you, Glenn, for the heads up on that. I can't wait to watch it and see. We might have some clips for that one tomorrow. Shout out to James O'Keefe. Make sure you're following him and supporting his work. Okay, let's say hello to our friends on the X platform before we wrap it up and go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our after party to say hello to our friends over there. Who's joining us on the X? Anybody watching over there? Let's see who is in the house. We got 48 viewers. Oh my goodness, that's almost 50. Who's here? 48 viewers, my friends, on the X platform. Amazing. We've got Barb's Loved Alaska says, I missed your show, but look forward to the clips that you share. Danny's in the house says, Rob, I've watched a lot of courts, a lot with you talking about them. Answer me this. Why are they treating lawyers better on the stand than the rest of us? Are lawyers better than the rest of us? No, probably the opposite. All right. So yeah, the reverse of that. Honestly, I think that what they were doing was giving them leeway, was giving them plenty of opportunity to say their piece. Judges will do that. Judges will, because the last thing that a judge wants, and you'll actually make this point in court, like defense lawyers say this all the time. Judge, let me make my point. We don't want this coming back down on appeal. Like if I can't say my piece, then I'm precluded and there's no remedy for that. So let me say my piece. So they'll default to letting people speak more, not less, so that they can get it out. We got malinformation super spreader, a malinformation super spreader. Says, FYI, it's not just retired people who have been targeted. This guy is a licensed attorney, and I found, quote, contributions under my correct name and address I've never made. I've seen lawfare in action. That's why I haven't filed a complaint. I don't want to deal with the bogus grievances that will inevitably follow. Wow, that's a wild story. So a licensed lawyer is having his identity basically stolen to grift for Democrats. What's up? We got Ray again. Raven Madness is in the house. What's up? Good to see you, Raven Madness. We got Ray again, says, love the show. Love you back, Ray. And my friends, those are our friends on the X platform. You can follow us over there. You can follow other watchers out there in the wild at Rob Govea ESQ on the X. We'd love to see you over there. But that is going to be it for us on the day, my friends. Want to shout out our mods and our meme smiths for modding the fort down for us, including Vienticus Prime, KB, we got Just Cause, Playing Hooky, our friend Ronnie Cole, Zulu, we got Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, John Allen in the house, Janek 909, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me, all clipping away for us, along with our friend John McGarvey on the day. Sleepy Dog Lee, Jigam Gigam, and Nathan N810 are meme smiths extraordinaire. That, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going to go hang out at watchingthewatchers.locals.com for a little bit of an after party. We'd love to see you there. We do streams in the morning too. And tomorrow, don't forget, we got at 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, watcherlodge.com. We have Political Zen Wellness. So come check it out. My friend Jason Campbell's going to be there. It's going to be a morning. We'll do some breathing. We'll do some Zen stuff. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. So come and join us, my friends, at watcherlodge.com. We'd love to see you there. That's it for us on the day. We are going to be back here tomorrow to get into it all again. And we need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.